Hello everyone, this is part 12 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It was a normal morning for Konoha, and in Naruto's room he was slowly waking up. He groaned as he felt himself waking up. He pried open an eye and looked at the clock on by his bed. It was 9 in the morning and he was surprised at how long he had slept in. He remembered that he was going to see Hinata today. As he got up and started to stretch out, he remembered her at the monument and him taking her home again. He was a bit embarrassed carrying the Hyuga heiress on his back, but he was glad to do it. Thankfully she woke up before he reached the main gates and they made plans to meet up today since she seemed to have gotten the day off as well. He felt a bit better than he had the past few days. He was still slightly scared of what could happen if he called on that fox's chakra again, but he would deal with that later. He did his usual morning rituals before getting dressed. He checked the time and he didn't feel like making breakfast, so he'd stop by the ramen stand before going to Hinata's. Yo, Naruto, how are you feeling? Naruto looked to see his dad on the couch reading one of his books again. Hey dad, feeling a bit better to be honest. Kakashi nodded, glad to hear it. So what's up for today? I'm going to see Hinata-chan today and we're going to hang out. We haven't been able to do like we used to when we were in the academy. Naruto told him. Alright, oh by the way, I'll be cashing in the payments for the missions and handing them out to the team. I'll place it on your dresser when I get it. You should also know that the mission was bumped up to AB rank because of the ninjas we faced. Kakashi told his son. Naruto nodded his head and they said the goodbyes as he left to get to Hinata's home. It was kind of cool that the mission was now officially AB rank. Normally he'd be excited about that, but he didn't feel too excited about that mission. He was still thinking about what happened, and what he was really worried about was the damn fox inside of him. If this is what happened every time he got really angry, then it would mean he would have to control his anger. Which he admits is hard for him since he lashes out far too often, but he couldn't help it, that was just the way he was. At any rate, he just wanted to put his problems behind him for the moment and just enjoy the day with Hinata. He quickly stopped off at the ramen stand for a few bowls and had a nice chat with Ayami and her father there. It was one of the reasons he loved that stand. It had both great food with great people to talk to while there. After that he made his way to the Hyuga clan compound. Naruto went in through the front without a problem as he was well known among the Hyuga clan and went in search of Hinata. He was wondering if he would be able to see Neji there if he wasn't with his team today. He wanted to ask him if Lee was up for a rematch at some point. He didn't see him as he walked through the grounds, so he guessed he could always have Hinata tell him later. He found her in the garden area with Hanabi as they were sitting and talking. He yelled out to them and Hanabi smiled at seeing him. Hinata blushed as usual, giving him a weak wave as he walked over to them. So how are my favorite Hyuga girls? Naruto asked happily. We're the only Hyuga girls you know personally, Naruto Nizan, Hanabi stated. Why did you have to be so cold, Hanabi-chan? Naruto said in an exaggerated display of being hurt. Hinata giggled at this theatrics, hiding her smile behind her hands. See, Hinata can at least knows when to have fun, he said. I know how to have fun, Hanabi said, crossing her arms and giving him a hard look. Besides, when my sister told me you two had a free day, I was hoping you'd want to join me and Konohamaru today. Naruto thought about it. He hadn't seen the old man's grandson since he left on his mission. The boy was kind of like a little brother to him and he wouldn't mind seeing him again. He then got a sly smile on his face as an idea popped into his head. Oh, so we're off to see Konohamaru then. Didn't know you liked boys yet, man, you're after a boyfriend already, you really work fast, Hanabi-chan. Hanabi looked both mortified and embarrassed. I'm only 8 years old. I don't like boys like that, he's just my only friend outside of the clan. Naruto burst out laughing at the look on her face, it had been priceless. And Naruto-kun, that was mean to Hinabi-chan. Hinata scolded him for being mean to her little sister. Okay, I'm sorry. Hanabi gave him a small glare, telling him that she would get even with him at some point, but that would have to be later. One of the reasons she wanted him to come was so that her and Konohamaru could work on Hinata and Naruto while they were all together. After that, the small group decided they would go and meet Konohamaru at the park since he would be getting there pretty soon. It took them a while to get to the park, but when they got there they found Konohamaru waiting there for them. He was happy to see Naruto and the Hyuga sisters as well. Hanabi and Konohamaru started to play on the equipment a bit while Naruto and Hinata had a nice talk. Mainly just to catch up with what they had been doing since the last time they really got to see another. He was glad to hear that Hinata was doing fine with her team and she really liked her sensei. Naruto had met Kurenai a few times thanks to his dad and the fact she was Anko's best friend too. Oh yeah, she always seemed really nice. Naruto nodded his head. Hinata smiled and nodded too. Why yes, she's been great. She's so kind, gentle, but also gets serious when she has to be. Sometimes. Sometimes what? She kind of reminds me, of my mom, Hinata said. Hinata fell silent at that, remembering the death of her mother always hurt. She felt a hand on her shoulder and looked to see Naruto there. He had his hand on her shoulder, giving it a little squeeze and a comforting look to tell her she wasn't alone. She was glad for it and gave him a small smile to let him know that she was okay. Hey, aren't you two going to play too or make eyes at each other all day? Konohamaru yelled out, making both young teens blush and pull apart. It's nothing like that, we were just talking. Naruto shouted out, glad the mask hid a blush. We shouldn't ignore them, Naruto-kun. Why don't we join them? Hinata said, trying to get their minds off that. Yeah, you're right, that's why we came here, right? He asked, smiling at her with his eyes closed like normal. They started to play together. Normally they either played all together or they would be split into two teams. Usually they were the girls against the boys or two older kids against the two youngest. But Naruto didn't care at all. For the moment he was just a young teen enjoying his life with his friends, and that's all that mattered to him. After that mission, this was the best kind of thing he could do, something that reminded him that there was still plenty of good things in the world. They played several games together, laughing and enjoying things. The group also showed Konohamaru a few games as well. One of them was Captured Princess. Mainly one person acted as the princess that you had to save. For this game Hinata got that, while Hanabi and Konohamaru had to tag Naruto in order to defeat him. The two kids tried their best, but Naruto was great at moving to avoid people when he had to. So he managed to avoid the two kids as best he could and quickly made over to where Hinata was by a tree. Got ya? Naruto said as he took Hinata by the hand, as that signaled that she was now safe. He had to admit it felt kind of good to play this old game again. It reminded him of when they were younger and things had been simpler. Konohamaru walked up as he was grinning under his scarf covering his lower face. He had an idea and he hoped that Hanabi would catch on to what he had planned to help get Naruto and Hinata together. Hey, isn't the hero supposed to get a kiss from the girl when he saves her? Both young teens blushed at this, Hinata more so of course. I can't do that. Naruto blurted out. Hinata's face looked to the ground, feeling depressed that he quickly said such a thing with her right there. Hanabi did in fact catch on and schooled her face to not let it show. What, are you saying my sister isn't pretty enough to kiss? No. I mean she is one of the prettiest girls from the academy, Naruto said, suddenly realizing that Hinata might have taken it as an insult. He only meant it, as she was his best friend and he thought that she would be too weirded out by that. He had seen her face fall and remembered the few tips his dad gave him about girls and their moods. Girls like to be complimented and he had done the exact opposite. Hinata's head shot up in surprise that he called her pretty. She hadn't thought that he would say such a thing about her, as she thought she was just kind of plain. Naruto thinks I'm pretty. But why would he think that? Ino has better hair and Sakura is so sure of herself. But he thinks I'm one of the prettiest girls from school. Her face grew warm at the thought of Naruto looking at her as a beautiful girl. Konohamaru meanwhile was glad that Hanabi was catching on fast and now it was time to really put Naruto on the spot. Well, if you think she's pretty then give her a kiss then, unless that rumor about you and the Uchiha guy was true, he said offhanded. He grinned seeing Naruto's expression. He had learned about that kiss incident from Hanabi one day and he laughed his ass off at it. Apparently Hinata had come home looking all depressed, and since Hanabi and her were close she had told her little sister what happened. Naruto was both embarrassed and pissed. Would the damn thing haunt him for the rest of his life? It had been an accident and now Konohamaru was calling him out on his sexuality. He wouldn't stand for that. He liked girls. Hell, he read his dad's books when he could, and he noticed girls all the time. It's not true Naruto-ni-san. Hanabi said innocently, further making Naruto angry. If it is, then I think I know of a third removed cousin and I think he would think you are pretty cute if you like boys that much. I'm not gay. I like girls. Naruto shouted out, not caring how that sounded to anyone listening. Prove it then, both young kids said to him. Fine, I will. And without even thinking, he turned and gave Hinata a kiss on the cheek. Sure, his mask was one and it was more of a chase kiss, but the effect on Hinata was immediate. She turned whole new shades of red as her eyes widened to the size of saucers. She was frozen stiff as her mind was trying to process what just happened, but only one thought was repeating in her brain. Naruto kissed me, Naruto kissed me, Naruto kissed me, Naruto kissed me. Hinata's mind was screaming out in joy. Sure, it wasn't some deeply romantic moonlight kiss on the lips like she had dreamed of many times. But still, his lips had touched her face and it was the best she ever thought that she could have hoped for in real life. Oh no, not again, Naruto said, seeing Hinata get all red in the face. She looked really dazed and she was starting to rock back and forth until she fell. Thankfully he was there to catch her, but he really wished he knew why she kept fainting. Every time he asked, she just stuttered so much he couldn't understand. He was thinking of taking her to the hospital to see if they could find out what was wrong with her, but every time he brought it up she kept telling him it was nothing to worry about. So he just signed and gently placed her on the ground, wondering why she had such a huge smile on her face. Konohamaru and Hanabi gave each other amused looks. Well, so far that was a good first step, but is she going to be okay? He whispered to her. Hanabi nodded. Yeah, this is normal for her. Now we just have to get him to spend more time with each other, but she needs to be more confident if she's ever going to tell him how she feels. Yeah, and he doesn't know that she likes him. Why doesn't anyone just tell him? He asked. She shrugged, saying that Hinata had asked many people not to tell him because she was too embarrassed and wanted to do it herself. Although, like she had already said, she was too shy to do so. Konohamaru made a sour face. Are all relationships like this? Hanabi shrugged, not sure herself. She hoped not. If she ever liked a boy, she planned to just tell him to his face and deal with the after effects. Maybe we can work on them separately. I could try and get him to notice her if you think you can get her to actually say what she feels, he suggested. Good plan. She nodded her head as she looked at her sister. At this rate she was going to have to start carrying smelling salts on her from now on. Uchiha compound. Sasuke was in the training yard of his compound that he used since he was a kid. He could have moved out of the house at any time. After all, it was filled with the ghosts of the past. But he needed to be reminded of what his brother had done to his clan, to their family. After the compound had been cleaned up by order of the Hokage, Sasuke had taken up residence in his old room again. It was hard to sleep that whole first month. He kept expecting his brother to come back and finish the job, but he never did come back. Eventually he got used to the quiet of the place and it became a refuge for him. He was sick and tired of all the praises he got in the academy, or all those stupid fangirls that just wanted him because of his statues as the last of a noble clan. They had this noble idea of him as some wounded soul that needed to be healed or something foolish like that. Of course he was in pain, but he needed that pain to help him push himself. He could care less about what people thought of him. It was mostly just empty praise anyway. He didn't see why, just because he was the last of his clan, that he should get so much attention, when he just wanted to be left alone. So he came home most of the time to just get away from it all. No one really cared anyway, most just wanted to be close to the Uchiha like they actually wanted to know him. That was a truth he learned at a very young age, that no one really wanted to know the real him. So he pushed all that fake admiration, attention and all that other stuff away. He didn't need illusions like that in his life, so he was spending his day training. He was by the lake trying out the new fire techniques that Kakashi gave him. Although he had a natural affinity with fire, it was still taking time to learn them. He wanted to totally focus on this because he knew that Naruto wouldn't be too far behind. He actually had to smirk at that thought. He had been the only one that managed to push him further along in life. Sure, he thought of Naruto as a loudmouth fool that sometimes didn't take things as seriously, but at times he had his moments. He was still surprised at how Naruto had dealt with that ninja on the mission. He never pictured the blonde would be able to do something like that. Plus there was that huge chakra signature as well. There were so many mysteries surrounding the Hitaki family. Why they wore the masks, the strange way Naruto seemed to have such a huge chakra supply, and the way he healed. Sakura hadn't noticed, but he had noticed on the way back that Naruto seemed to heal from his injuries pretty quick. There was also Kakashi's eye. He was finally able to get their sensei to explain why he had a Sharingan eye. Only the man simply said that his teammate who was dying gave it to him because he had lost one of his. To Sasuke it seemed inconceivable that an Uchiha would give up even one eye to a non-clan member. It was pretty much unheard of when he looked up information in his family history. He had seen a name crossed out that existed several decades ago in all the history. It seemed that whoever that Uchiha was, his clan had wiped out his history as though the man never existed. It seemed a harsh thing to do, even if it went against the clan's rules to wipe out someone's existence like that was a cruel fate. At any rate, Sasuke went back to his practicing, trying to get the new move down. He made the hand seals and focused on the chakra in his lungs and shouted out, "Fire style, dragon missile." With that, a flaming dragon came out of his mouth and flew over the lake. It made it about 15 feet before it lost too much chakra and faded away. He stood there panting for breath, feeling his mouth dry from the effort. Not bad, a little more practice and you'll start to get the hang of it. Sasuke quickly turned around to see Kakashi there standing behind him. His body was in a lazy position, although his face looked interested in him. Although you really should have a bottle or water or something when training with that kind of fire jutsu to prevent dehydration. Also be careful of your chakra level. If you use too much you'll just collapse right there, and it could take a very long time for someone to find you here. He said, digging out a small purse. He handed it to him and told him about the change in mission and pay. He had already stopped by the Haruno house and given it to Sakura's parents. They were nice enough people, and it seemed his other genin was out with Ino. He was glad that Asuma gave the young girl time off to help out Sakura. Sasuke placed the small pouch on the ground and nodded as he went back to the end of the dock. Kakashi knew that the boy wouldn't open up unless you force the issue. He was never good at subtly with this kind of thing anyway. Sasuke, I wanted to know how you're dealing with the last mission. The first kill isn't always something a person can handle well at first. I'm fine. That's what has me worried, Kakashi said seriously. You act like it doesn't affect you at all, and that's very worrying. She was an enemy and was trying to kill me, he said simply. I only did what I did to survive. Kakashi sighed. That's true, but I think you're on a fine line here. Enjoying killing makes you into someone that attacks anyone just for the thrill of it. Those types of enemies are like rabid dogs who are a danger to everyone. But with being so emotionless about it, you can actually be even more dangerous. Those types are cold and methodical, they rarely make mistakes and are very patient. How is that more dangerous? Kakashi decided to hit home with the boy. He knew it was low, but he needed a wake-up call, because that's how Itachi is. Sasuke turned around furious at him for bringing up his brother, and what was worse, he insinuating that he was anything like his brother was taking things too far. I'm nothing like him. Both child prodigies, both want to become stronger, and you both don't seem to care much about killing. You're starting to sound a lot like him, but don't get angry at me if you can't help but face the truth. I know you want to kill him and I can't blame you. I know what it's like to have those close to you taken from you. I've lost nearly everyone that I care for with the exception of a handful of people. Kakashi looked over the water as Sasuke mulled over his words. Sasuke, you're on a dangerous path, you have such great potential, but I'm worried where your drive will take you. You could very well end up becoming what you hate, and even if you do kill him, then what? If all you have in your life is hate, then you'll be left with nothing when it's over. Your entire life's work will have ended before you actually started to live your life. Sasuke looked away as he looked over the water as well. He vowed to kill Itachi for what he did, nothing could stop that. But why was this man trying so hard to make sure he didn't end up like him? Why would he care what happens to him? Why do you care? Sasuke said bluntly. Kakashi shrugged. Maybe it's because you remind me of how I used to be at your age, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. Sasuke was now surprised. The fact that Kakashi claimed to be anything like him at his age was laughable. Hey, it's true. I used to be a strictly by-the-book ninja, never late and always serious. I was called a genius too, but I never cared about that, only my skills. He said, smiling at the boy. But then one day I lost someone who I found that I viewed as not only my best friend but as a brother I never had. When I lost him, everything started to change. Sasuke thought about who it was. It was the Uchiha that gave you the eye, wasn't it? Kakashi nodded his head. I can't find any record of his name in my family records. It was like they wanted to erase his memory. He then noticed a slightly angry look in the man's eye. He had never really seen the man angry, but his whole body subtly changed, and for a second he felt all the stories he looked into about him were all very true. He deserves to be remembered, Kakashi said in a tone that you could hear a suppressed fury in them. His name was Obito Uchiha, and although he wasn't the normal type of Uchiha, he was someone special, someone that comes around only once in a generation. I feel people like him are very rare, but I'm glad that I met him. How did it happen? Sasuke asked, wanting to know more about this mysterious Uchiha. Kakashi sighed as he looked slightly depressed as he started to recall old memories. It was on a mission. Our teammate Rin was captured and I wanted to go on and finish the mission without her. He told me he was going back. He was the one that came up with the phrase, a ninja who doesn't follow the rules is trash, but a ninja that turns his backs on his friends is worse than trash. I still went on, but I later turned around feeling his words echo in my mind. When I caught up, there were a lot of things going on. I won't go into detail. There was a battle, we got Rin, I lost my eye, and then that fool had to go and be noble and sacrifice himself so we could live. Half his body was crushed and I was there when he died. With his dying breath he asked Rin to put his eye in me. Kakashi was silent for a long time, remembering his old team. I lost him. Then a few months later I lost Rin when she was on a mission and she never came back. Then I lost my sensei, who was like a second father to me. For a moment I had lost everyone in my life and I had no one left, but then one bright moment came, and that was Naruto. For the longest time he's kept me strong, and that's where true strength comes from, Sasuke. It comes from the bonds you form. You're stronger because you fight for someone else and not just for yourself. Like how you want to avenge your clan, but are you doing it for them or for yourself? You'll be stronger if you fight in their memory and not for your revenge. Kakashi and Sasuke stood there alone silently as they watched the sun started to lower itself. He felt that he had said enough and went to turn to get back home to Naruto. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke said to him, not looking away from the lake. Can you tell me more about this Obito sometime? Why is that? Kakashi asked. Because he was of my clan, and if I am to fight in their memory, then I should remember him too. Sasuke said. For a moment Kakashi felt his heart swell at that. He always went to the memorial stone so that Obito's memory would never be forgotten as long as he lived. But now for the first time in a long time a member of his clan would know of him and remember him as well. What had been done to him was an injustice, and this was a small way to ensure that Obito's memory lived on back in the clan. Sure thing, I have lots of stories about the most unique Uchiha that most likely ever lived. Kakashi smiled before vanishing in a puff of smoke. It was after the day off and Team 7 was back at their training grounds. The team looked better after a day to unwind. Sakura had spent the entire day with Ino, and it was good to just hang out with her best friend, and her reaction to the fact that she saw Naruto's real face was still funny. Sasuke seemed to be not so distant, and Naruto seemed to be back to his older self as well. Of course they were now waiting for Kakashi to show up as usual. Naruto, do you have any idea where Sensei is? Sakura asked as they waited. As if I'd know, all I know is that he said he needed to get something for us and get a little help for the next step in training, whatever that means. He shrugged. So they went back to waiting around for Kakashi to show up, wondering how late he would be today. Thankfully it seemed that he was only an hour late today when he suddenly showed up in a puff of smoke. They hear, sorry I'm late, but I had to pick something up and get someone's help for today. He said from his place on a branch overhead. Lair. Naruto and Sakura yelled at him. No, it's the truth, he said as it was for once. He jumped down and pulled out a box. Now all we have to do is wait for who I asked to help with your training. Help with our training? Sasuke asked him, wondering where the man was going with this. Kakashi nodded. Yes, the last mission made me think that you all need a bit more training. So I thought of something special on the way back. We're going to start with weapons training and elemental jutsu training for the next week. Alright, this sounds awesome. Naruto yelled out. So who did you ask for help, Dad? Anyone we know. Kakashi chuckled. Oh, you can say that. So when is this person going to get here? Sasuke asked with his arms crossed. The last thing this team needed was someone else that was comically late. However, he was still thinking about his talk earlier with Kakashi. He had been thinking about this Obito Uchiha and what kind of person he had been like to give up one of his eyes, even on death. Such a thing was unheard of, as like with the Hyugas his clan guarded their eyes fiercely. He looked at his team as they were talking. Naruto was trying to guess at who it was that was coming, and Kakashi kept smiling behind his mask. Sakura was there silently wondering what was going on as well. He thought if he was in Obito's position, would he sacrifice himself for any of them? It would mean that his goal to revenge his clan would end if he did. He was also thought if he was dying, if he could trust any of them with his eyes like that man had. It still was just surreal to think of an Uchiha capable of that. Hey there. Sasuke looked up in time to see a woman in a trench coat, ninja chainmail shirt, miniskirt, who also had purple hair tied up top of her head. She landed with a bundle under her arm close to the team. Auntie Anko. Naruto yelled out happily. Hey there brat, how's it going? Anko smiled at him. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at this. He never knew there was an aunt in the family, but then why didn't she wear a mask too? Was it only the men that wore that? He looked around and saw Sakura looking slightly nervous, and then he remembered that she had been closer to Naruto for years. It was obvious that she knew the woman. As she was talking with Naruto, he moved closer to the pink-haired girl. Sakura, you know this woman? Sakura jumped at being addressed by Sasuke, but she smiled at him, blushing slightly. Oh yeah, that's Anko. I met her at Naruto's birthday parties. She's his aunt. Well, not really. Sakura went in to explain how Anko wasn't actually a relative of the Hatake family, she was a good friend of the family. Naruto just liked to give adults certain titles. The Hokage was the old man, Anko was his aunt, and Guy was his uncle. Sasuke went to ask who Guy was, but she told him quickly that he didn't want to know. Sakura had good reason to be nervous around the woman. She was creepy. She had this smile that put you on edge, and the fact the first time she showed up at the first birthday party she and the rest had gone to had been a day she never forgot. They had all been there as it was the first time they had celebrated Naruto's birthday. The house was pretty large for just the two of them. The yard had been huge, so the party was held out there. It had been pretty fun. Of course she hadn't expected several grown-ups to show up. The Hokage stopping by was a surprise. Then there was Guy, who came out of nowhere. Asuma also showed up for a bit too. But then that was when Anko showed up onto the scene. She had been talking with Naruto when a kunai came out of nowhere and actually sliced his cheek a bit. She had screamed and fell back, and Naruto jumped as well, a hand going to his face. And there smiling was Anko. You're getting slow brat, you used to be able to dodge those better, she said. Naruto jumped at her yelling, and it kind of devolved into the point where insults were flying and she ended up putting him into a headlock. But then after that they were both acting like nothing happened, all the while she had been too scared to move, and every other kid just stood there frozen in shock. The adults were used to it though, and Hinata seemed to take it better, although she had been worried about the small cut on his cheek. Thinking back to the present, she was now worried what kind of help Anko was going to give them. So Kakashi, you better make this worth my while, Anko said, facing the masked Jonin. I'm taking time off my schedule for this, and that weaponsmith was on the other side of the village too. Alright, fair enough, Dango is on me then, he smiled at her. Anko thought about it. That sure would be nice, but she had been thinking about Kakashi a lot more than usual lately. Ever since she saw that damn face of his, she found the image of his face showing up at the oddest times. Okay, so he was physically attractive, had a major career, and was a single father who did his best to raise his adopted kid. Hell, to most women that would be the perfect guy, although he did have his faults. He was so secretive that only after years of knowing him did she know a bit. She knew about him going to the memorial stone almost daily, and that was the real reason he was constantly late. She knew about his parents dying while he was young, the suicide of his father. She knew that behind that mask he had to be hurting a lot, but he never showed it, never bothered people with it. She knew about his reading habits, but in all honesty she had her own copies of the books too. Hell, some women actually liked them because they had some strong female characters in them, while some romance books the woman was all girly and couldn't do anything herself. Plus the sex scenes were really hot. But now she had him in an interesting way. He owed her, and maybe now she could finally sort things out with how she felt, and maybe even seeing if she could get past that wall he put up. Actually, that might be a good idea, Kakashi. For desert, she said, grinning, and noticed his confused look. The Dango can pay for the trip to the weaponsmith, but for my help training will take more. Kakashi sighed. Okay, then what do you want? Easy. Take me out for a decent dinner tonight. Kakashi blinked a few times. Huh. Nothing fancy, just treat me to dinner and dango and we call it even. Kakashi thought it over and it wasn't a bad idea actually. Plus he couldn't think of anyone else he wouldn't mind spending time with. She was an interesting woman and he had to admit she was full of life, although he knew that she put on a face sometimes but she largely enjoyed life. Besides he did owe her and he couldn't remember the last time he just went out. Alright, it's a fair deal. Alright then, so which one is my victim for the day? She asked looking at the three kids. Just hold your horses, I have to explain things to them first. Kakashi smiled as he turned to face his team. Okay Sakura and Sasuke, you two will start weapons training today. Sasuke, even though you're good with the ninja wire, I think it's time for you to learn how to use something. The academy records said you showed promise with a sword, so I got you one. He motioned to Anko, who walked over and laid down one of the wooden boxes. She opened it and handed a katana to him and handed it to him. Kakashi pulled the blade from the sheath as he showed it to him. This is a special blade made from a strong metal that you can send chakra through. Now it will take time to learn that, but I think this could be good for you. I'll be teaching you how to wield it. Kakashi said as he put the blade back and handed it to the boy. Now as for you Sakura, Anko will be teaching you the weapon I chose for you. Kakashi smiled, seeing the girl get a little pale at the mention of Anko teaching her. Anko pulled out two weapons from the box. They were long pieces of metal that were rounded with a handle near the bottom. These are tonfas, Kakashi explained to the girl who tested them out. They can be used to defend and attack in many ways. You can disable or even cripple a person with them, making them very versatile. What he didn't say was that he wanted her to have a non-lethal weapon until she was more ready to kill. She had been the most shook up from her first kill, so he wanted to give her the option of being able to take someone down without killing. At any rate, she still have her kunai and shurikens if she really did need to kill, plus even a tonfa could kill. You could break someone's neck, crack their skull, or just bludgeon them with the weapon. Plus Naruto did say that she can hit pretty hard, so it was a good weapon for her. Hey, what about me? Naruto asked, looking up at him. I was getting to you Naruto, Kakashi smiled as he pulled out a small sword. I had to wait to get this repaired as it was broken for a long time. I just never had a reason to get it fixed until now. Naruto, this is my father's white light chakra saber. Naruto looked wide-eyed at it as he gently took the small sword. You mean Grandpa Hitaki's sword? The one that you once used? Yep, Kakashi said to him. But, this is a family heirloom. Naruto wasn't sure if he should even accept it. He wasn't a real Hitaki after all, he was only adopted. Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder. Who better to give this to other than my own son? Naruto looked up, feeling so nice that Kakashi told him that, even though they weren't related by blood, they were a real family. He smiled down, looking at the blade used by Tsukumo Hitaki, the legendary White Fang. Just holding the blade Naruto wanted to do proud by his adopted family. He pulled out the sword and it looked normal enough. You have to channel your chakra into the blade to get the full effect. It will take some time, but you're not doing weapons practice today. Kakashi told him. What? How come? He demanded. Because even though you're ahead of Sasuke in the way of the sword, but he's been training with those new jutsus. So it's ninjutsu training for you today. Kakashi told him. I want you to practice those scrolls one gave you. The wind armor and wind blade will be very useful to you. Kakashi sensei. Sakura asked him. Will I be using more genjutsu instead of ninjutsu? Well, it's your strength, but what's your element? Sakura didn't know. Thankfully Kakashi had a few slips of chakra paper on him among his supplies. He tested her and it turned out that she was a water user. Unfortunately he didn't know any low-powered water styles jutsus, and neither did Anko. Sakura was a little disappointed to hear that, as she knew her chakra levels needed more work. But Kakashi did say he would looking into more genjutsu and lower-level water-style moves as well. Sakura felt a bit better at that is until a hand slapped down onto her shoulder. She looked up nervously at a grinning Anko and swallowed hard. Well, Pinky, looks like we get to play, Anko said dangerously. And so the day went. Kakashi trained Sasuke in the finer uses of a sword while he went to check on Naruto and Sakura to give any helpful hints. Naruto was using his shadow clones, trying to get his chakra just right for the moves. He already had the hand seals down, but the moving and altering your chakra part he knew Naruto would have trouble with. So he gave helpful hints now and then. He also noticed that at least one clone was training with his father's sword. He should have known that Naruto would still find a way to train with that. He saw Sakura was actually learning well from Anko, although the woman was pushing the young girl very hard. Sakura asked if she could take off the weights that were on her ankles and wrists, but Anko told her that if she even thought about it again she would get her heavier ones. Sakura didn't mention it again after it. Sasuke did have some talent with the sword and he could see that he picked the right weapon. He also asked Kakashi more about Obito while they trained and Kakashi did. It was actually nice being able to talk about his best friend. Sasuke did have to admit after hearing the stories that Obito was nothing like an Uchiha. By the end of the day all 3 students were wiped out. Sakura felt like her entire body ached, Sasuke's arms hurt from using the blade for so long and Naruto was getting close to chakra exhaustion. But all 3 genin felt like they had made some progress for the day, so Kakashi let him off the hook a few hours early. The kids went off and he was proud of how well they were doing for the first day. He was thinking about getting them some new weights as well as this training would help them adjust to them even more. So Kakashi, you better keep your end of the deal. Anko told him. Oh, don't worry, I know better than to get on your bad side, he chuckled. After they both went to their homes for a quick shower and a change of clothes. Although it was just a dinner between friends, both felt a little strange by this. They had eaten before, but never alone. Usually Naruto was with them or they were with their friends as well. So now they were both wondering if they should just dress casual or at least put a little effort into it. For Kakashi, he just decided to dress down a bit, mainly just pants without the taping at the bottom, and with no tunin jacket either. In fact, he went with a simple dark shirt that matched his mask. For Anko, she was wondering a bit more about her appearance. This was just one step to see if there was anything between the two of them. She didn't want to dress too strongly but also wanted to give him something to think about. She got rid of all the ninja gear and her trench coat. She kept her hair in its usual way, but went with simple sandals, a skirt and a nice shirt that went with it. The good thing about the shirt was that it had a nice little V-neck line that let her show off some cleavage but not too much. She decided with only light lipstick for the night as she picked up a purse she wore when she went out in more civilian clothing without her coat. With that ready, she walked over to Kakashi's. After all, she told him that she would meet him. She was in no mood to wait around for him in case he was late again. She got to the front door and knocked, and when Kakashi showed up she liked the casual look, although she wished he wouldn't wear the mask again. She mentally sighed seeing him wearing it. So you ready to go? Kakashi asked, giving her an eye smile. Sure thing, she said as they walked to their destination. They had a little light talk on the way there as he asked her about Sakura's progress. Anko had to admit that Sakura was raw, but the girl had some talent when she actually applied herself. With some proper motivation and training, she was sure that the girl would become a good ninja one day. They decided on a nice little place that was more civilian patronage, mainly because they didn't want to run into anyone from work and starting all kinds of rumors. They both didn't need any more rumors running about them, not that they cared, but it did get a bit annoying at times. Plus the place sold dango, so Anko was sold on that point alone. Dinner turned out to be very nice for them. Anko was still annoyed that he somehow managed to eat and drink without taking the damn mask off. If she hadn't seen his face that one time, she would have been convinced that he had been born with the damn thing on his skin. At any rate, they would talk about the usual things that ninjas would talk about, new missions they had been on, new ninja supplies and which store offered the best merchandise and what new things were in stock. New information on the ninja world as well, such as who just got into the bingo books and why, and who was now off the books. And there was only one way someone usually got off the books. They even would talk about her in jokes that only ninjas would get as well. And the latest news on their fellow ninjas too. Kakashi wasn't surprised to find that Guy was last seen trying to climb the Hokage mountain with a boulder on his back with both arms tied behind his back. Apparently he made it halfway up before he crash landed. He was expected to get out of the hospital in a week. After dinner, Anko decided to have her dango to go as she ate it happily as they walked out. Kakashi had to chuckle at how childlike she was when she was happily eating the snack food. It really took the edges off her personality, and he felt that he was getting a small look at a side of her that she didn't let out often. Hey Kakashi, you want some tea? Anko asked as she finished off her last stick. We're close to my apartment and I could use some after that meal. Kakashi thought about it and it did sound nice, plus he knew it wasn't going to lead up to anything. He had a couple of dates in the past that used the, "you want to come up for some tea" line, but Anko didn't put any hidden meaning behind the wording. Plus, he had never seen her place before, so he was interested in what her place looked like. They walked up to her ordinary apartment complex, nothing major as you see them around the village all over the place. It helped to save space to build apartments rather than housing, because the more the village grew, you ran into a problem with the walls surrounding the village. You would have to expand the walls, and that wouldn't be an easy feat and very expensive as well. So they walked up to the 5th floor as she put her key into the lock and they walked inside. Kakashi looked around as she went to the kitchen to make the tea. It was a fairly neat and tidy place. He hadn't been sure what to expect, but it was a fairly ordinary place. It was lived in, but something was odd about it. He looked and realized it was actually kind of plain. There were a few decorations here and there, but nothing that really stood out like she decorated to just fill in space. Although he guessed she filled those spaces with things she liked. He noticed a painting in black and white of a lone tree in a valley. It was kind of lonely looking to him. A few other things here or there, but he noticed that one shelf held a lot of pictures. He smiled as he looked at one with a younger Anko and Kurenai smiling with Chunin vests on. It was most likely taken just as they were both made Chunin together. There was one of her with Naruto and himself at one of Naruto's birthdays. A few others of the few friends as well were there, but there was one that caught his eye. He gently picked it up, seeing a very young Anko with two older people. From the looks of it, he had a guess they were her parents. Anko came back with some tea and saw him looking at her pictures, and when she got closer she saw the one he held. She silently looked on, not sure what to say. It wasn't easy talking about her parents. Thankfully she didn't have to, as he suddenly spoke up without looking at her. "It's hard living with this kind of burden, isn't it?" "What?" she asked. "Living on after those we loved have gone," he said as he gently put the photo back, still looking at it. "I was young too when I lost my parents. I can barely remember my mother anymore, other than from pictures, and I find myself struggling to even remember her voice." Anko now knew what he was talking about, and she felt it too. Having to move one with her parents gone hurt every day. Sure, it didn't hurt as much as it did, but there was a hole in her life that she would never get back. And now she remembered that Kakashi most likely had that same hole as well. "I was so young when they died," Anko said silently. "I remember them hugging me and telling me they would be back from their mission soon. I waited and waited, but they never came back. I would stay up all night waiting for them when they didn't come back on time. Then I heard they had been killed on the mission. I was devastated. I was filled with so much pain and anger. I thought nothing would be okay again, and then," she trailed off, remembering what happened next. Kakashi was interested in knowing. Ever after all these years he still didn't know much about her. But then again, they were both secretive people. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder, making her look up into his eye. "You don't have to go on if you don't want to. I know how painful the past is." Anko nodded, but instead she felt like she had to get this out. Only Kurenai knew about this, and that took a long time to trust her with this. But she felt that she could trust him. After all this time, maybe it was time to start opening up a bit. Besides, he was just as screwed up from a painful past as she was, so maybe he could relate. "That was when Orochimaru found me," she stated, and Kakashi nodded his head. "He became my teacher, my mentor, and, well, he helped me. Or at least I thought he was helping me, but I was nothing but a tool for him. He told me all the right things and made me trust him. Then he puts this damn cursed seal on me and leaves me behind. He took my memories as well. Do you know what that's like? I feel like I was violated in a way that I didn't know existed. That bastard ruined my life for a second time." Anko clenched her fists in anger, feeling all the old pain rising up. Then she felt Kakashi gently holding onto her shoulders, and she was brought out of it. She looked into his eye and she didn't see pity or sorrow. She saw a deep understanding in that single eye of his. "No matter what happened, Anko, just remembered that you endured. You rose up from the wreckage to become even stronger than you were before. It's not an easy thing to do, and you should be proud of that. I know what it's like to have been left behind to pick up the pieces. It's never easy, but I learned something," he said to her. "My life hit rock bottom the night of the Fox's attack, and I lost the last precious person in my life. I had nothing, and yet that was the night I took in Naruto. Because I knew what it was like to have nothing, and I didn't want that for him. But the funny thing is that even though I took him in to help him, he helped me as well. He gave me a reason to get up in the morning and something worth living for. I learned that you don't have to go through it alone. Anko smiled a little. I did have Kurenai to help me out when we became friends. And later the other few friends I made too. Kakashi smiled back at her. Yeah, and well, you know me and Naruto will be there too. Anko felt a warmth in her chest that he would be there for her. She hadn't felt a feeling like that in so long. She wasn't sure what it was, but it felt nice to her. Thanks Kakashi, and well, the same goes for me too. Kakashi nodded his head. He wasn't sure why, but he felt glad about that. So what about that tea? Anko just laughed at that moment. It figures that he would break up a moment like this with something like that. But she was glad for it as they went to get their tea together, as they went into more light-hearted conversations. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.